Thursday, May 1st, 2025. It is 5:30 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Golf Facilities Exploratory Committee. Gentlemen, do I have a motion to open the meeting?
Make motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. On our agenda tonight, we have all business. We have Kurt Raber from Catalyst Architects here to discuss a different portion of the job, placement of the clubhouse, golf cart facility. So Kurt, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for having me back. I don't have a long, scary presentation tonight, and partly that's because I was on vacation for a couple of days during the school vacation week with my family. But we did, as I mentioned while leaving last time, we talked. I went out to the site with our consulting landscape architect, Tim Garish, who knows the course well. He's been working with Steve on bunkers and tees and greens and stuff, maintenance issues and new construction issues for years. So we toured around the parking lot, the kart staging area, around the building, around the practice area, and then we sat under the tent with some big, paper copies of the site plan and the septic plan, and just started to kind of think about the flow, and we kind of watched the way people play. And Tim made some great observations, and then he also warned about the things that we probably shouldn't change or shouldn't squeeze too much. And then there's a couple of crisscrosses, and because 1 and 9 don't really end right next to each other, and 10 and 18 don't really end right next to each other. 6 and 7 cross at the clubhouse as well. So there's a lot going on, and there's quite a bit of traffic. But there's also people arriving who are going around the clubhouse and around the tent to the driving range, which was quite popular last Monday morning. And so we watched kind of the way things work, and the more we settled into putting the building right where the tent is. And before we sort of look at that at the site, we also talked about changing the orientation of the building to, instead of sort of like more vertical, up and down, or east to west axis, to something that's a little bit more linear as you approach it from the parking lot side at the bottom of the page. And we have the pro shop area over here that kind of sticks out, so that they can have a view of people arriving and staging. And then this is the right side where the carts are staged now, and the path that goes up to 7, and it goes around the building very close to our proposed deck location, at really, really close, wraps around and comes over here to the driving range in the practice area. We also talked about flipping the kitchen to the left side as you approach the clubhouse, and that might be a more natural place to have a service driveway where a truck doing deliveries or a trash truck could come over and do a dumpster, tip a dumpster over there, early hours of course probably. So we reconfigured the program a little bit. Again, most of the diagrams last time had a dining room, and then the other kind of support programs, on the right side, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the pro shop. We've kind of reoriented things and kind of restacked things, and that was really to. I don't want to disassociate that with the rest of the page. Why did that happen? Dining room, covered outdoor dining, and then wrap around deck. And this deck could then have additional seating with tables with umbrellas or without umbrellas for people who really like to be out in the sun, especially in the shoulder seasons, where sitting underneath the covered porch may actually be a little too shady and a little too cold. And then sort of the back of house really faces the parking lot instead of the golf course. And we wrap this deck around so that there's a way to kind of walk down to the driving range and the new driving range golf ball shed. So it's,
the old one?
no, the one that's there would remain. That's the one thing Dana told me has to stay.
Okay.
Yeah. So then what we did is we took a couple of the other storage spaces and we've introduced a stair. So we're thinking that it makes sense to at least underneath maybe the kitchen and bathrooms to do a partial basement for our mechanical room, our boiler, our hot water, etc. That would all come, an electric room that would all come in there. Again, trying to reduce the size of the footprint on the first floor, main level, to use that for program space. So we kind of massaged this, nipped and tucked the plan, which we can come back to. Oops. This is that plan cut into the site plan. Again, here's the driving range and the newer ball shed with that slab out there. And we've nestled that wraparound deck kind of goes around the building. This broken red line indicates the position of the existing clubhouse trailer, double wide trailer. So we've fit things in there snugly. And then we've got the new cart barn over here. And again, that's shown with 8 rows of 8 carts, just as a general placeholder, but it could be 72 plus a couple of utility vehicles. We could even, maybe in one corner, we create a spare parts room or something. But, the other thing we've done is, the pinch point is right here, where there's so much traffic from 1 and 6 over to 7 and back here to 10, and then also to the practice green area. And we noticed that you were getting ready to do some paving, improving some more parking spaces around the 7th or the 10th tee and the practice range. We think that's good. We take the liberty of sort of widening some of these paths where we can. There's a little retaining wall here. We'd like to maybe push that towards the practice green a little bit because it is very narrow right there. But out in front, what we were trying to do was do a real separation between vehicles, passenger vehicles, and golf vehicles. So we'd like to introduce a planted garden or berm here that's vegetated. Maybe there's some bollards that golf carts fit through, here and here. But it really prohibits people from driving out to the parking lot with the carts. And of course, with the new fleet of carts, you could probably put boundaries on where they'll operate. So that's another way you could control car traffic. But along here, we envision places for bag drop, and then you can put your bags back there and bring your car around to pick up your bag in case you parked at the far end of the parking lot. In this existing sort of donut of grass, there's the septic components in there. We do feel like there's an opportunity in this island to create 3 or 4 requisite handicap parking spaces. They could either be on this side or on this side with an accessible path to the clubhouse. But then we started thinking, well, we can do a lot with the parking lot too, to bring the cars closer to the building now. But I thought maybe we ought to just concentrate and use our budget for the buildings itself and its immediate surroundings, which we included this cart staging area. So there's more than enough area here to stage the full fleet of carts for a shotgun start. And again, we've nestled the building in very tightly to this corner, but the dining room has a sort of kind of a more solid wall with some windows there. And we thought, well, if there was an event, there might be a head table or an MC could be at this end with a microphone addressing the room. But then we show the open doors that goes outside. So there's an event could take the whole space, indoors and outdoors, if we wanted.
What is the capacity you have there for that?
This was
All inclusive of the indoor and patio?
we could fit 80 in this bigger dining room. It's about a little more than half. So 40, maybe 45 outside under the cupboard. And then, of course, we could fit at least 35 more or 40 more outside. So again, this was using the smaller of the 3 program spreadsheets where we kind of tried to make something that was sort of linear, that could be expanded, or the partition wall could be as glass-like and as transparent or movable as we want it to be.
Correct me, approximately how big is this concept? Is this around 3,800 square feet?
Yeah, it's a little over, and that's just because I kind of squared off this kitchen and made it a little bigger and added the stair.
Okay.
But I'm confident we can get it and hold it at 38.
Okay.
What's the square footage?
38 inside, that's without the deck, of course, Dave. The deck is sort of beyond that 3,800 feet. But
So the men's and ladies' rooms are in the blue, or the...
yeah, they're here in the hallway.
Okay. And so you just gotta go down the hall
And
to
then
get there.
we sort of had the pro office there, but the office, that could be downstairs. This corner could be the cash register, because it also has a window in the back and it could kind of see more play from that location. And the pro office and storage could be in a basement location. I did put a GM office here. Dana, you talked about having access to kind of all things. Or your office could be connected to the pro shop if you'd rather than the hall, but you also talked about being able to run down the room and run down the hallway and cover the bar and help out there in a pinch. So we were trying to just make the adjacencies similar to what we had studied before, but sort of reorient it so that the dining spaces and the outdoor spaces really allow the golfers to see one another, whether they're playing or on the porch and enjoying the 19th hole.
What's the square footage of the deck, do you know?
I didn't take that number earlier today. I should have. If I
How
had,
big's the building?
it's the
That
30.
back wall, I mean.
Yeah, this is 40 by 12. Call it, it's probably less.
Probably 70 feet,
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna do.
and the deck's probably 12.
Dana, do you see...
It's almost 1,000, including that walkway down to the other end. But this, we could, if we felt the deck needed a little bit more space, the deck could have a unique shape to it. It could kind of fill in and take its shape from the contours of the land around it.
Kurt mentioned before, when he was sitting there under the tent, he saw a lot of traffic coming back and forth from 6 and just back and forth. Do you notice it as an issue?
As an issue, no, I mean, generally, the building is the heart of the operation as people flow through the holes and make their way through their round of golf. You come off 6, come in for a snack, go to 7, come off 9, come in for a snack. So I mean, there is a constant flow, and like you said, come in for your tokens, drive around the building, go to the range. I mean, everything is circulating around that area.
Right, because a lot of people, including myself, has done it plenty of times. You come off 6, you run in, get something quick, and you go to 7.
Yeah.
And we've all been there plenty of times. It's not as bad, I don't think. I never see usually I park the car no matter where, and
Yeah, no,
And there's plenty of room here and you could paint some parking spots, for carts to make it kind of really clear that people don't just leave their cart in the middle of the flow. But there's plenty of room here for some carts to parallel park on both sides, coming and going, and you run up these stairs through the covered porch and you're in the pro shop, or could go right through into the bar. Do you have any phone service? Do people call and order any food or anything?
Typically, no, it's kind of just come off and grab it,
Yeah,
grab and go.
yeah.
Sometimes I don't think the phone rings in the pro shop during the day. I just, my thought, I don't know.
Take it off the
Oh, it
hook.
rings.
Oh, I forget, nobody answers. That's okay.
It rings and rings
Yeah.
and rings. It's probably ringing right now.
Only kidding, maybe.
I've been in there in December and it's still ringing.
This,
Were you mentioning that for calling ahead from the?
yeah, it's just if you wanted to drive hot food business,
A lot of them.
you know, a lot of the golf courses have the red phone, where you can call ahead.
Yeah.
And that's if you're trying to keep the pace really moving much faster, I guess, but, we did, Tim Garish kind of really talked me out of sort of pushing more back. He says it's really hard, we'll get into an expensive detail to put a retaining wall if we really tried to push the building further in. He would love to do some vista clearing, but of trees in here, so he says, now that you've got these places, these destinations, people are gonna wanna see more of the golf course. So thinning the herd there, all around from the far side of the practice, all the way over to the first. Not all of them, but
That would
some.
be great to even make it almost like a
And-
park area.
and lifting
Have
the-
Rondak chairs,
Yeah.
people, if they want to even walk off into the little area and watch people play the 6-hole or tee off the one, you could have, some outdoor seating.
And clearing some low branches would allow distant views down to the first.
I mean, and that is what we discussed, right?
Yeah.
We wanted the deck and the facility to the focal point, we wanted it to be the golf course, so any customers sitting there leisurely were selling the product while they're sitting there enjoying the place.
And I love it. We left that newer shed there. There's a couple other little sheds around, which I think we can move around and displace. We talked a little bit about putting the carts under. And it could work, but we'd have to come up with a kind of a scheme where we kind of go down a ramp into the basement level and then come back out someplace. And it's not practical to come out on the whole front side, almost all the way around so we'd have to come up with a configuration to dive the carts under on the left side, turn them around and park them somehow. It's not really a kind of a nice drive-through. And then I still think the basement and the sprinklers and the added cost of that under the bigger building drive costs higher. They also drive the building higher out of the ground, which creates another problem where we have to create more ramps and more stairs from the existing paths or the front door into the building and to provide accessibility. So we really think that the second cart building belongs somewhere over here. We've kept it pretty tight. We talked about pushing it south, or to the bottom of the page a little bit, maybe even parallel with but the farther you go, the more clearing you have to do. Tim was worried about trees that protect cars in the parking lot from hooks coming out of the range. He said we'd have to put up netting if we take all those trees and move the building over there. But what we've kind of ruled out with this scheme is a larger practice area, a chip and putt kind of thing in here. And Tim was saying, and this is sort of, golf business, which he sees more than I see, but he thought maybe expanding the range with a couple of more tee boxes on either end, even if that meant a little bit of netting here for protection, might be useful. He's working with several golf clubs right now that are expanding their driving ranges. And it's driving a lot of business inside and the clubhouse. You know, people come, hit a couple buckets, have a couple of beers, maybe stay for burger and fries, and people make an evening out of it. So he was thinking that it might be more advantageous to try to improve the capacity of the driving range than to concentrate on a short practice area. He also thought that maybe there was areas in and around the golf course that the pro maybe goes now and does lessons on short game stuff with people if they kind of avoid the play.
Sometimes
Is there a lot of private lesson stuff?
No, he does do that occasionally, but with the volume of play that we see, there aren't too many opportunities to take that on. He essentially does the majority of the stuff on the range, his clinics and whatnot, but in downtimes, he will take them off the course as well.
Okay, all right. Tim and I were talking about if we could move the cart barn further towards the parking lot and put up in a fence area. Maybe there was a way we could create one or two bunkers over here and hit, range balls back into the range, but it gets real tight real fast.
Yeah. And the emphasis right now, I think, should be on the clubhouse. And
because
the cart barn.
I think we're going to spend every dime of your budget just
That's
on these
correct.
two buildings and the immediate surroundings.
Correct. Budget's becoming an issue, in a sense. The initial figures that you gave us from Scheme A to Scheme E started out, on the high at $6 million. I gotta believe that's gonna get some blowback.
Yeah.
Working that way and really bringing it back down to our initial $3.7, $4 million budget that we can, show that the course can pay off.
Yeah.
Because, this isn't taxpayer money in the sense we do need it to go before town hall, almost as a cosign, but unlike other overrides that we've just seen, this isn't coming out of taxpayer money. This is all being funded by the golf course, and golf course is in a strong position right now. So it's advantageous to take the clubhouse and this cart barn and bring it up to its full potential. When you mentioned that bringing it underneath, that's probably going to bring us back up to the $5 million range.
It definitely adds by putting it underneath.
Yeah, because we've got the full depth basement, whether it's, it's probably a 10 or 12 inch wall, but it's 9 feet high, and then, or maybe even taller. And then we've got a floor joist system to carry the assembly load. So it's more than just TGIs probably. And with this scheme, this dining room and porch could be a slab on grade. So the addition of the deeper basement, the basement slab, the elevated deck, fire sprinklers on both levels because we'd be pushing over 7,500 gross square feet. So we'd be sprinkling the basement, main level, and attic. That drives another $100,000 right there. Plus, the water service has got to be adequate, and maybe there's a water service on the site that is adequate, but we would need to test that. Whether it's the municipal hydrant or the extension of that system, or even we've used irrigation water on golf courses before for maintenance garage buildings, fire sprinklers. But
You mentioned that last week that you were going to maybe send it out to your estimating crew to.
yeah, so I took the old schemes, and then yesterday I sent this scheme off, and I've got the PM&C estimating firm sort of coming back to me with ballpark budgets for the smallest of the three former schemes and this one. just basically 16 division breakdowns. I'm hoping to have that at the end of next week so that we could all look at it together in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
We're also going to, my partner Todd is working on the CAD version of this plan, now that we've kind of designed it in trace paper and pens and scales. We're working on the computer version that will then be 3D with some roof forms, and we'll probably insert some sort of graphics into some pictures taken at the site so that we get a sense of the magnitude or size of the
right.
scale of the building in its setting. And then sort of put together a revised program to the square foot, a more settled number on the cost per square foot, and then a better estimate of soft costs, and we can, talk about what our contingency is left. We'll reverse engineer it now from 3.5, and we'll come up with either a couple dollars left or, a couple $100,000 left as our contingency.
Right.
That would be our goal.
Gentlemen, any comments about the plan, or what do people think? Dave, please.
I know,
Yes.
I've been here in and out, kind of by design, but this is quite, I really like what that rendering looks like there, Carl. I like the flow of it, I like how it wraps around. But was there thought of taking pretty much that exact building and then just siting it right on top of the practice green right now? That way the sight lines of that wraparound deck are the first tee and the 18th green. Along with some tree clearing, like you were saying, for the sight lines as well.
I think it would probably just come down to budget, right? I mean, what it would cost to move the practice green was a significant amount, and then, so that was what I had got out of the impression of last meeting, where, because I agree with you, Dave, I think that'd be the best spot for it, absolutely.
I mean, that was
but
beautiful
I don't know
right
if we
there.
stay under budget if
That's
we
money.
put it there.
Well, we don't, I gotta believe it's gonna be more money, just for the fact of moving the green, and then the construction costs, and the fire suppression system, that sort of thing. But that's where I'm gonna throw it to the golf committee. If you guys think that's affordable, and it's a doable number, that's gonna be the big pitch. Because, I don't disagree with you, that is a spot that,
Other than moving
See-
the practice green, what would drive the cost difference?
well, you gotta, the one on the left, the one you just, down low, we don't have to put fire suppression in,
Right.
because we don't have the carts underneath.
Yeah,
Well, we still wouldn't think, no, they wouldn't be underneath over there either.
Just move the building in that direction.
No, just move the building straight up.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
all right.
exact building, but just site it where the practice green is.
Yeah, and
Steve's very good at growing grass, so I mean, we can just plant grass.
All right, well, he told me 50 to 80 for
It's
the,
all of $80,000 to build a putting green of that magnitude. I built them before, they're expensive to build.
that's,
Isn't Tim part of what?
yeah, and Tim, I said to him, is 75 to 80 enough to rebuild the practice green where the tent is if we move the building over there? He said, well, when you take the practice green out, you'll create a little bit of a hole, so the building will probably sit a little lower than the practice green does now.
Right.
Because the building way up high creates those access issues that I mentioned before. And then I just sort of took a copy of that building, put it over there. I inverted it so the kitchen was on the far side. But at that point, maybe deliveries to the kitchen are all hand trucked a pretty long distance. Or put on a cart and driven from the tailgate of a truck out at the parking lot all the way to the clubhouse. The pro shop could be on this corner, and the practice green could be sort of right here, which, Tim also liked. He said you kind of would come in, drop your bags, get on a cart, stop at the pro shop, stop at the practice green, stop at the practice green, all on your way to one. He said the sort of arrival flow was a little bit straighter, but he was thinking that excavating out the existing system, rebuilding it where the tent is, was all of 100,000. So he thought 80 was light. And he likes the idea of the carts being in a separate building, because he's been involved in a lot of buildings where there's ramps to put the carts under the buildings and they take on water. And then there are impediments to the flow of people around the building. There's railings everywhere because you could fall in, and he said, so they're troublesome. So certainly could go here, clearing some trees would work. Maybe it's a little bit more of a,
If I could speak to that, so we did take a delivery today, and coincidentally, the load came, the driver drove pretty much down to where that back deck is, because we were loading to the refrigerator out back. So he brought the truck fairly far back there, and we hand trucked it over there and loaded it. I could feasibly see that being okay with one of our flatbed carts, loading that 2 times and driving it over to the kitchen to load. That would be feasible. I'm comfortable with the cart barn being separate from the building. I mean, if that saves the money from putting it underneath with the ramps and the sprinklers, that's great. But also that option on the putting green allows you now to do the phase 2 at some point of a full-on practice facility, which I think is a key factor moving forward for a standout feature, amenity for your golf course. I mean, just my personal opinion, I think if we're trying to set ourselves apart, essentially that building isn't much more than what you currently have. You're basically putting a building in place of the tent, you got a kitchen, it's essentially the same thing, it's just gonna be nicer. But if we can kind of put it in the right location, I mean, what's $50,000 to $70,000 over the course of the lifetime of the golf course if you then can feasibly put in a practice facility and make it, an all-encompassing golf experience. That would be my viewpoint. That I think, I don't know, am I out on a limb? I think
agree.
it's short money for a long-term vision.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any way that you can incorporate a quote for where the building could be there as opposed?
right.
So like, I know you said you had like 3 or 4 quotes you asked for already, but I think we'd all be interested in to know how much of a difference it would be if it were to be near the 18th green.
right, and we could, Tim was talking about making sort of a new path to 10
Sure.
up there, sort of on the other side. And then, of course, the dumpster could be over by the cart barn.
I mean, when you build a house, it's all about location, right? So obviously, if we're going to this magnitude of building, essentially, for the golf course, it's gonna be there for the remainder of time. You probably wanna put it in the right place, right? And then we can build the business around it, a better business around it.
Well, within the limits of the budget.
Yeah, oh, no, obviously, yeah, not,
I understand.
if
And
it's,
I don't mean to be harping,
no,
the budget.
but, yeah,
But,
it's a key feature, I know, but long-term wise, it's the right thing to do, and that's what needs to be kind of our viewpoint. This shouldn't be like, we always seem to do things with a short-term vision, and everything that we do in this town. Short-term vision, always about the pennies. If we can just open the perspective just a hair and think long-term, what this will allow you and how you will set up against your competition who is currently suffering, and we've got our foot on their throats. If we do this, they're not gonna touch you. You have just solidified your market leader position.
Well, Dana, save that for the select board.
Well put.
Because you're preaching to the choir.
Pennywise, pound foolish.
I can't disagree with you on those issues, but,
But the owner of Southers Marsh said it, he's like, yeah, if I could do it, I would do it bigger if I could do it again. So it's,
right.
I think,
I'm saying the T,
Well, I think that, definitely promotes on
yeah.
that side.
yeah.
Wouldn't you want like the bigger portion of the deck facing
One go one way, one
the
way the
18th
other.
green? Just like rotate the building?
I'm saying we
Yeah, I just flipped it.
Yeah.
To get the pro shop
Right, yeah,
on
yeah.
the arrival end, but
Yeah.
I think, yes, we would stretch the deck
Yeah.
Could flip it,
differently,
yeah.
so,
Right, so you see 1 in 18.
yeah.
And as far as your congestion that you were speaking of, this actually lets it breathe a little bit more, because you put the building
Got that one.
in an isolated spot, the right spot, and now your business is breathing the way that it should be breathing.
Yeah.
The flow goes down to the range, everybody's eating where they should be eating, observing the golfers where they, whether they want to be observed or not, but they will be. But, and you still have your setup,
100%,
you still have your setup area for outings and your cart return.
Is there
I
anything
don't
for
Shop's
like
right there on the corner.
extending or maybe making the parking lot a little bit closer, given that all of where the current pro shop is and the tent is gonna kind of be not there anymore? I almost wonder if you can make the pro shop a little bit closer to where the new clubhouse would be. I know we're accounting for potentially a practice facility for for that, but I imagine there should be some room to make that closer. That way, for deliveries and people just parking and getting to there would be easier.
Yeah, because I hope it's truncated here, but Tim Garish and I talked about sort of this line of parking sort of has this island on it, but it literally could come up there, and this lane could come up here, and we could add,
Yeah.
probably a couple of dozen parking spaces closer
Yeah.
to the building, just by advancing it. You just can't get up on top of that septic.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think what you initially showed us, I personally really like how you have everything there, the flow of it, going to the kitchen, going to the cart barn. That looks really good. It's, might be tough to tweak it and make it look just as good over there, but I think it's definitely worth trying, because that would be the ultimate spot.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Let's talk about that. Like, if it does go to that location kind of everyone wants, you want to make it accessible for the people that want to stop after 6 and after 9 and all that, to just stop in real quick, get something, then keep going, because you really don't want backups on all those tees at 7 and 10. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you still have it, because it's located right near 10. So the people coming
Yeah.
off 9 are going up by it, and it's still coming off 6. It's
Yeah.
leading right to it. You pop up onto the deck, and you're there.
They're in and out,
Yeah.
in and out.
And-
Some people
and-
might want to go in and
the-
use the
the-
restroom.
right.
And that's
Correct.
most
The
times.
key feature
That's
in
right.
that is having food prepared for the grab-and-go process, so that they can't just come and pick it up,
And
throw the
that'll
money
be-
on, out the door they go,
That'll
swipe
be
a
a
credit card.
learn as we go kind of
Yeah.
thing too.
Yeah.
What's
That-
selling,
Operationally, we could make that happen.
right. Most people are coming in for a candy bar or a beer
Right.
and a hot dog, and
Exactly.
and that's something super quick.
Why couldn't you do a little portable thing even down below?
You probably could.
So they don't even have to go up, back up to the
You
clubhouse?
could probably keep an outdoor grill if you wanted to, still for the weekends or the outing days, just to keep things
Yeah, the busier days.
moving
just,
through. And then, in your non-busy days, you use your indoor kitchen and sandwich program that we create.
So we can worry about that
Yeah,
later. But getting the electric there, getting the septic back to
true.
the island, that's what's gonna be tough. Now, where you have it now, your first proposal, getting the sewerage
Yeah.
and the water right to the pit is kinda easy. Now we've gotta, hopefully gravity takes it from over there.
it is uphill, so
Yeah, that's a-
So gravity would work, so yes.
we would pipe it right back to the existing pump station.
So, that's not a ton of expense, it is more, but it's pipe and labor
Yeah.
and a digger.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we'd all say like, we'd love it, it's gonna come down to the guys who are holding the money,
Yeah.
for them to decide.
Well, the golf course is still really in charge of it. I mean, the golf.
I agree.
The golf
We're gonna
course is
put
generating.
our best recommendation on what we think should be done.
Exactly.
If somebody wants to go in a different direction, then that's what they'll have to do.
Yeah.
And I see the red dots where the clubhouse is now.
Yes.
Obviously, that would impede construction and all that, so maybe not, but it kind of looks like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's too close.
Well, you
Right.
could tear that down and have a temporary
Yeah.
club, like pro shop, right?
Right, we've researched before renting a double wide temporary pro shop and a temporary,
Maybe we'll just keep it.
Employee housing.
But
We
that's
start
not.
spending some of
Hey,
those
if
$1,000
you're a guy in the
expense.
trailer business, you might be able to get us a good deal.
You know, I mean, just, right, I'm in that business, but just moving that place is gonna cost us 30 grand. For me to move a single wide is $10,000. So, you got a double wide, you get 2 halves, plus, you know, whatever incidentals and plugging everything, that sort of thing. So, just for a ballpark figure, you can,
Yeah.
to get rid of that thing is gonna cost about 25,000, unless there's a fire.
Something else.
Don't encourage it.
I meant by the fire department, the practice.
What date would that be needed?
So I'm happy to kind of sketch up a master plan of both, because our estimator is going to need that, to kind of tell us what does moving the building 100 yards that direction cost. And it does free up a bit of a area, like Dana said, where you can do other things. Obviously, the practice green, you know, probably comes in here, but you do then have room for perhaps a bunker or a short game area where you could
Right.
just have people working in this area or out into the range.
Well, construction-wise, the numbers shouldn't change much.
No, construction for the building itself is kind of given. The utilities and the site work
Right.
is the add-on to moving it remotely like that, or further remotely.
Do we know what's the actual size of the cot barn?
The cart barn, is- yeah, sorry,
Our current one.
No, what is the size of the proposed one?
4,600,
4,600?
yeah.
And that's a pretty
No idea
consistent.
what the square footage of the build out would be, do you?
Well, from what you gave us last week, you had 4140 was between 828 and 931. For 4140. So if you split that, say 850, 860.
Yeah, I was gonna say 750 to 850 is probably the number on that
How
building.
much a square foot?
Oh,
Oh, 750 to 800,000?
yeah. What we came up with.
Is that just a steel space building?
Yeah, or a Morton building, could be a wood building, might be less in today's world.
Wood is less than steel?
A Morton building,
Yeah.
which is the wooden pole barn. It could either be a perimeter foundation or the precast concrete piers that are about every 8 feet on center. And then it's a triple 2x8 post.
Yeah.
And then, basically a perimeter top plate and trusses. And then the steel skin could be an insulated skin or an uninsulated skin. We've used them for several cold storage buildings at golf courses. Goes up fast, very, probably more economical. And because the space building, you end up getting the peak, we want a flat bottom cord truss system that's low to the ground to hang our chargers. So we want a ceiling system.
Right.
But we'll,
And the bulk of the electric will stop there,
yeah,
you know? That's where
main electric could come here and then there'd be a
Smaller.
smaller or a
to the-
pretty good sized service to the clubhouse building, but
Right,
it's a secondary from the cart barn.
right.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like having an idea of the two concepts, having it
Yes.
in both, you know.
Right, and the other thing we thought of that was a little bit more disruptive, I guess, but maybe guys don't think so, is if this clubhouse had the same orientation and moved over to here, and we rerouted the cart paths. And instead of going sort of behind it, all the carts came around. But it doesn't really get you back to the practice area, but it gets the deck, the wraparound deck into the golf course more.
You're saying just by tweaking that back a little bit, like you just showed?
Yeah, and I mean, I moved it 30 feet, but.
Well, where's that cart path going now, in front of the building?
Or could it go around it, you know, or should it come back around the practice area and come back up and join the plaza in the front of the building? But the dumpster doesn't have to be there. That could be on the far side of the cart barn, so you don't see it or smell it. But, you know, is kind of blowing up the cart path system and redirecting it an option.
That location there, if the elevation change, you probably wouldn't be able to see the 18 green still though, on that, I'm thinking.
Definitely not.
Oh, right, because the practice green is so elevated, right, yeah. And we were thinking that the dining room and deck would be at the same elevation of the deck that's on the back of the clubhouse trailers now. So the floor would be at that level. So in the original position that Tim and I landed on here, this deck is the floor of this deck is about 5.5 feet above this cart path here. So when you're sitting at that deck, you're not looking at golf carts go by, they're below you. And they're coming up the hill there. But to see all the way to 18 is still difficult without a periscope.
Kurt, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is the deck handicap accessible?
It is through the building, and that's another reason why we wanted to wrap this deck around to here. Well, we want to create sort of a 360 way to get around the building. But the other thing we could do is have a ramp go right along the side of the building here, or a slope walkway that had maybe some plantings around it. So it's an obvious way to get on and off. But certainly ADA walk up, no handrails to the front door.
Are you required building code to have two
Yeah,
methods of egress for handicap, or just one? Or should we ask the building inspector?
no, you have to be able to get off this deck via a ramp.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's the,
yeah. So we would need somehow a walkway to come around this side of the building that was elevated.
Well, I think where it comes down to is, this. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think
we have to,
I think with careful consideration of the building systems, you can get there. You know, so that,
now, Dan had mentioned he wants to accommodate 144 people. This has 80 and 40.
right, and then
Plus
40
the deck.
outside.
And then the deck.
Well, that is the deck, but now you're talking about the outside portion of the uncovered deck.
Right.
So you got 80 and 40 somewhat covered.
Right,
Can the roof be extended to cover
right.
That
I was gonna say this.
part of the deck? That isn't?
Once we have a better sense of what that
Or even an awning?
roof's
Yeah.
covered,
Yeah.
you know, that deck could column all the way out to the end, or the dining room could slide further towards the driving range, so that that covered area gives you that greater capacity.
I've seen a lot of golf places that have a seasonal coverage just for the deck as well. So, I mean, if the original building doesn't do, you can extend it with canvas or some other type of,
'Cause we could.
Gatanset has a beautiful outdoor facility, and it's 70% of it is temporary for the season, and they have a permanent bar with 2 full tents on the side of it. So, I mean, if it's good enough for them, probably could work for us.
We could, this could be an alternate to, look at a covered deck that goes all the way to that set of stairs. And
And we
then,
say 80, but you could probably squeeze in
90.
90, and then you squeeze in another 10 over here, and
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, in a couple days, we have the real big outing
Right.
to squeeze in.
Because I know that they say the size of Suther's Marsh holds X amount, but me and John talked to the guy, he's like, oh yeah, we fit a lot of people in this room. if
Yeah,
need
she
be.
said we can squeeze 110.
Yeah, there it is. And theirs is 80.
yeah, it's.
Oh, no kidding.
What, Suther's Marsh, yeah, that was
Yeah.
their number 80, but
Oh,
she
what,
said,
really?
yeah,
She
she
says
said
we can
110.
squeeze 110.
So, there you go.
But it all depends on the type of tables.
Right, yeah,
chairs,
yep.
Right.
And, the code just says X number of square foot per person. And there's a lot of capacity in that room anyway. But I think we wanted to have a building program that matched the budget. So, but maybe during the investigation of the price, we find that we can build the covered deck for far less than I'm anticipating, and maybe, at that point, we just stretch the plan. So, easy to do that.
Okay, well, we're all in agreement.
Yeah, I
This
like
looks very good.
I like
All
that.
right, so we'll refine this one plan and use this for the estimating. And then we'll have 2 site schemes that shows, a subtle tweak to the plan inverted, but it's the same building space, so.
Right, right, same square footage, yeah.
And then Tim Garish is sort of waiting to hear how this meeting goes, and he's going to help sort of come up with a pretty site plan that we can, be an exhibit to our final report.
Yeah,
And now he's going to do 2. But yeah, he's ready to go. And we'll be working diligently on that in the next 2 weeks. And
okay.
The pro shop you have there, I mean, that can be tweaked a little bit. Now, obviously Dana would probably want to have input. I mean, the 2 offices, I think that's what those little squares
Yeah.
are. I mean,
they could be at the front, they could be back
Okay.
here and.
yeah, that's what I thought. I mean,
So that you can walk
he-
right under
he
the
might-
deck from the pro shop, that might be
Not one.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking that same thing, that you take them out, so there's another door right out to the
Yeah.
deck right from there.
I think that would be wise to move those 2 little, whatever they are.
Okay.
And again, that's just tweaking it.
Yeah, you're right, then you walk right onto the deck from the pro shop.
Well, yeah.
Could have a door
We
right
could have
there.
one indoor and one outdoor.
Yeah.
And then maybe even a
Yeah,
little
I
easier
like
to
that.
go towards the bar area as well.
More circulation
Yeah,
in the building.
As soon as somebody pays their greens fees,
Yeah.
they're off to the practice green.
Yep.
yeah, because,
Right back
Or the
down that
bar.
set of stairs. Yeah. On the way.
all right, that's,
So do you think you can do this 2 weeks, you want 3 weeks? I mean, we're in May 1st, we could meet,
This is a weird month, it has.
around
Couple extra-
Memorial Day, and at the end, take off that last week.
Yeah.
And all wraps around, I don't even know when.
3 would be better.
3 would be
Yeah.
back, because I don't want to, next time you come, I don't want to say, okay, come back in a week, or we're not really up there yet, and it'd be
That's the
great.
22nd.
22.
Does anyone have an objection to having this next meeting on a Wednesday?
I do not.
It's fine.
Wednesday, the 21st.
Well, I mean, do you?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, that would work.
Would that work? Okay, then if we could move it to the 21st,
That'd be great.
that would be great, and then that would give us time, then we got the holiday, and we can re-meet in June and be pretty much, you know, just maybe have 1 or 2 more meetings to finalize and give a report. And we can meet July 15th and even be ahead of it maybe. And get it forward, and that would give the golf committee and the select board 4 months plus to advance it from there.
When you said you have an estimating crew or whatnot,
Yeah.
how accurate do you get?
They'll have like a one summary page, but there'll probably be like 16 pages behind it and I'm gonna tell them sort of what to assume. Like, maybe simple split system, HVAC, they're gonna come up with an electric number and, you know, lighting watts per square foot and a power watts per square foot and pretty much base it on that.
Okay.
But they'll use public construction numbers, golf and other community center projects as in their database as benchmarks. You kind of compare it to that. And then there's a regional adjustment, and then there's just an overall market adjustment, which is a little bit subjective. We did a project a couple years ago with them in Nantucket. They added 40% just to the bottom for the ferry tax. But they estimated it like it was in Hyannis and then added 40%. You don't have to do that. We've had some rumors of really good turnout for public bidding projects and competitive pricing. We took bids for renovation of Marion Town Hall, came in under budget 3 weeks ago. So we're encouraged. People are a little hungrier, I think, or a little nervous, I'm not sure which, about what the future brings.
All right, well, very good.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any other comments? Anything to talk about from last week, or? Think we're all going in the right direction here? Working out well. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you.